Hello and welcome everybody to Footy Classified, and what a big week it has been in football and about to get even bigger. Tonight, Tom Morris has got all the news from the AFL Tribunal. Rory Sloane has got some big thoughts on Oscar Allen, the captain of the West Coast Eagles, and his meeting with the Hawks. And the great James Hird will be up here having a deep dive into the big game on Thursday night between Collingwood and Carlton. But first, a Footy Classified exclusive, and tonight I can tell you that the AFL is working on a radical change to its fixture for the next 2 seasons that would see the grand final played in the second week of October and the return of State of Origin football to be launched in the 2026 season. The AFL is working under the theme of turning major events into mega events, setting up the major growth of the game over the next decade. So here's how it could look. March. The return of State of Origin. Over 2 weekends, Victoria, South Australia, Western Australia and the Indigenous All-Stars. And, in a separate division, Queensland, New South Wales, Tasmania and the Northern Territory. Winners play off in the All-Australian final and an international rules game between Australia and Ireland in the women's group. Absolutely sensational. Late March, early April, round 1. All Victorian clubs play each other in Victoria. The Queensland and Sydney teams play at home, while W and South Australian teams would play each other, allowing their traditional 2 showdowns and derbies to continue during the season. So, games would be played in each state and extra blockbusters for everybody. The AFL would expect an opening round record attendance played in more appropriate climatic conditions than what we saw this year. Right. The later start would also avoid clashing with Grand Prix weekend and give players more time to prepare for the season, which has been a big complaint. There would be mini gather rounds for Queensland and New South Wales, which would be scheduled for later in the year rather than the opening round. So, for example, when Collingwood plays Brisbane on the Thursday before Easter, let's say Hawthorn could be drawn to play the Gold Coast. Both supporter groups could stay for the Easter break in Queensland, and then you flip the following weekend so they play each other. The same for Sydney and even for Perth. Now, a split round in June would also give the northern states an exclusive weekend of football and in the best weather. All up, more blockbusters for all clubs and a football tourism bonanza for fans. Now, the familiar blockbuster weekends, Gather Round, Easter, Anzac Day, Sir Doug Nicholls Round, King's Birthday Weekend, would provide a constant stream of top-class events for AFL. But the big change is at the business end of the season. A later start means a later finish, with a grand final in the second weekend of October. Now, before everyone loses their mind over this, there have been 28 October grand finals. Now, the later finals would allow the mega event NFL game for points at the MCG to be played without a clash, and the MCG would then be prepared for both codes in partnership between the NFL and the AFL. Now, the AFL has already struck a number of major deals with the American Giants, who will allow the AFL to use the millions of dollars of infrastructure the NFL will bring for the AFL finals for footy fans. It would also mean that the AFL's 3 biggest games, the preliminary finals and the grand final, would have clear air away from competing codes like the NRL, which would mean for massive ratings. So in an ever-growing race for the ratings and the corporate dollar, this would give the AFL a huge, huge win. In a potential further ratings boost, the AFL Grand Final would be played on the first weekend of daylight saving. With a sunset scheduled at 7:32 p.m, the opportunity for a night grand final becomes even more enticing, and all that brings. So in 2027, this would also allow the MCG to be clear to host the 150th anniversary of Test cricket between Australia and England, expected to be another huge international event here in Melbourne. And you know what, everyone? Even Mike Brady is up for it.
'Cause there's one day in October, the footy's almost over. It could be forever. We're gonna have to band together, 'cause footy's such a part of this whole town. And October, it's got a funny sound. Sure has. Back to you, Eddie.
Good on you, Mike. It has got a funny sound, but I think it's got a really good ring to it. Now, I know everybody loses their mind about any changes, but you have to evolve. I mean, the whole idea is, Darwin's theory of evolution is not the survival of the fittest, it's who evolves and who adapts survives. So with all these big events coming in, the AFL, rather than going up and butting heads, get behind those that powerboat and water ski behind it and make the most of it. I think the AFL have got some really great ideas there, but that's my thoughts. Over to you guys. What do you reckon?
Well, there's a bit to unpack, mate, and we'll get to it in a second. But from a player's point of view and a club point of view, it sounds unbelievable. But talk to me about the chances of this seriously actually happening.
I know, it's the AFL at the moment are deep diving into all the issues that could come up. Okay, so there's going to be, everyone will have an idea. I mean, the women's football season for a start, you need to make sure that that's okay as well. Where does that go to? But things are evolving in the AFL. The main thing on this is, as I said, Caroline Wilson had a story tonight on Channel 7 that the Sydney Swans were going to petition to get rid of the bye game before the finals. I can tell you, that deal's done. That's been signed in. They have to do that because you've got to have time to bump in the NFL and bump out at the MCG. So this fits everybody. Everybody gets a win out of this. And more importantly, I mean, even the VRC have been talking. I spoke to Neil Wilson, their chairman, today, about turning the Turnbull Stakes the day after the grand final into the launch of the spring racing season and having a major event out there for all the people who are in town for the footy. But so everyone's a winner. I mean, Cricket wins, racing wins.
Huge. In 1 year, you've got State of Origin, international rules, gather round, 500,000 people opening round, NFL in Melbourne, grand final in October. It's going to cause some issues, Ed, if you're backing that. 150-year anniversary of Test cricket all in 1 year. That is absolutely huge and a lot of change. How are people going to handle the change? Well,
there's not much. It's only 2 weeks, let's be honest about it. And as I said, there's been 28 grand finals in October.
Who's won most of those?
The players did well, actually.
Is this a Collingwood conspiracy to move the grand final in October?
If it means we can win the flag, we start it now. But
how much involvement have you had in this? It sounds like you're across this.
Look, I have to declare an interest. I'm on the board of Visit Victoria and I'm on the trust of the MCC. So I'm across things. But this is an AFL situation. The AFL have realised their partnership, and it is a genuine partnership with the National Football League of America, gives them unprecedented access. Clubs are going to be able to pony up with American clubs. They're doing deals with concussion protocols and research. They're doing all sorts of things like that and fixturing, etc., etc. So it's a really big play, and the AFL have positioned themselves beautifully to set it up. And what they've been able to do now is, I mean, they've always thought here about, you can't let the NRL start the season early and they've gone off to Vegas. My point is, if you open the season with a record-breaking opening round where everybody can go to the game, and then at the end of the year, you've got free air to have the grand final. I don't think you can.
I'll put my coach's hat on just quickly. I mean, if you look at the way the coaches, the players have to come back, they come back for 2 or 3 weeks in December, then they break. I think it's by pushing the season back, you actually get a really good run. Bring them back on players back on the 1st of January, train them for 12 weeks, get them ready for the season. They play State of Origin, they play rep footy, or they play practice games, and you really get a full run in, Rory.
What if you get injured in State of Origin?
Well, you get injured at training.
Yeah, I think you get injured anyway. I think as a coaching group, as a group of players and a group of coaches, we've got to be bigger than that now. I think the State of Origin.
But
we need more content.
You know they're not though. You know the coaches, if a star player gets injured, will be filthy.
But they get injured in pre-season games. But
at least they have control over that.
What's your biggest story tonight when we get to it eventually at Essendon today?
The 2 injuries.
2 injuries in a bye week.
Yeah. At training. No, I get that. But you know coaches as well as I do.
I know coaches are protective, but I think it's got to the point now where you just go, 1st of January, everyone comes back, you get a 10-week run into the season, you play some State of Origin for your best players. As a player, I'd rather play in a State of Origin game than up the back of the country in a practice game.
Hey, Eddie, a bit happening at AFL House. Jeff Walsh. What's the latest there, and what sort of roles is he going to have when and if he does get appointed or elevated?
I'll tell you, there'll be an announcement of this on Thursday, and Jeff Walsh. And I say congratulations to Laura Kane on this one, because she's bringing him in as part of the team, and he's technically a consultant, but he's part of the team. He's going to be in there a fair bit, and he's going to be looking after the clubs, the competitions and major projects in football development and the football department. So getting someone like Jeff Walsh, who doesn't like the media, so he's not going to be out there doing media things. He's been around forever. He's got the full confidence of everybody.
He doesn't want Laura's job as the key.
Doesn't want Laura's job.
But this is Mr. Fix-It, isn't it? There's a fair amount of disharmony among clubs and inside the AFL towards the current administration. Jeff Walsh is there to ease the waters.
But as you just said before, I mean, clubs have got a knack of complaining about it.
I understand that. They whinge well. But this is broad, and it's been there for a while.
Is this a Laura Kane appointment? Does she want this?
She's absolutely at the forefront of this. She's the head of football, and she wouldn't be having Jeff Walsh there if she didn't want him. him.
But I think you had to get through the process there.
Right.
Because what will happen is the media goes, oh, right, OK, they're bringing in Jeff Walsh, they're bringing in,
No, that's my immediate
this
reaction.
old bloke over the top. But what they've got to do is, and I think Andrew Dillon's doing this now, he's had a year with his feet under the table. Now he can start putting his own team in place. And I think we've got to be grown up about this and realise if there are things that need... If you've got people over here who really know what they're doing and you don't use them, then that's negligent. Yep. If you've got somebody there and you bring them in and you get a better result, that's called management.
Are the clubs happy with where things are at the moment?
I think they'll be happy on Thursday when Jeff gets appointed.
They're not happy at the moment.
No.
Right.
But what I love is the AFL's been proactive with this appointment. And going back to the fixturing too, they've been proactive with that too. Rather than being reactive around what the NRL are doing with round 0 and gather round, we seem to be copying them a lot and being very reactive. This is proactive from the AFL.
Well, I agree with you. I think the AFL reacted to the media saying, oh, the NRL get off to a start in the season. Let's get up with the money is up here. Get up with the grand final. We are now, don't forget, Foxtel's now owned by not Rupert Murdoch anymore, but an international DAZN. They don't know what AFL is. So we've got to actually put the runs on the board to get the money. So coming back to your point, Tom, if the AFL coaches, for example, want to have a lift in the soft cap, we've got to find some more money. And guess where that comes
players won't
from? Coming up with ideas. The players get paid well playing State of Origin too.
And the seasons have moved. I mean, you look at the way the weather is. I mean, cricket, you can't play cricket in October anymore, can you? So will cricket be happy with that AFL basically takes over October?
It doesn't affect professional men's cricket, but it does affect club cricket. Yeah, I think April to October makes perfect sense for cricket. The question I have for you, Eddie, just last one on this, is there's a lot of stakeholders to please here. There's a lot of people that don't like change because they think the game is flourishing as it is, and it is flourishing in its current form. What do you say to those people?
Well, I'll say this, that every major decision that has grown the game in the AFL has been poo-pooed by either the media and or talkback callers. I was in a board meeting for presidents in 2000 when Essendon and North Melbourne, two of the most progressive teams at that stage, said they'd sue the AFL if they kept them on Friday night football because the ratings were dropping down. And
really?
Beauty.
We love playing Friday nights. You notice the weekend off.
We did until those times, but I couldn't believe it. So then that all changed. But everything has been... The first Friday night game, people were losing their mind. Players were running around with black boot
North Melbourne Collingwood, wasn't it?
You wouldn't be able to catch the yellow ball and, the Jew, and it's going to affect the... People said it was going to affect the percentage. How does it affect the percentage? But these are the things. Your point right at the start is right. People don't like change. It's 2 weeks. There's been 28 grand finals in October, and what it does is it makes cricket happy because they get the 150th, the sesquicentennial test. Rugby, the NRL comes to town, the gridiron. That is a major play for football going into America. Heard you were talking off there. This gives AFL a chance to maybe play games in Los Angeles.
Absolutely,
and do things.
Broadens the game.
We've got to get broader.
So put the number on it. Percentage-wise, this of happening next year, what do you think?
I mean, I think it should be 100%.
Right, but what?
Well, you've got to get through. As Tom said, you've got to get through, everyone on 3AW having a complaint, and Caro didn't have the story, so she'll want to knock it over. Usual,
Well, there we go.
Kane will complain.
I was
waiting for that 4 weeks in.
But clubs need that spell more than ever. I think after the season finishes, they need that spell to Christmas to reset. After draft, I reckon they'll get a bit of time off, come back in January and launch from there.
As a player, did you want to train for 2 weeks, break for Christmas for 3 weeks, and come back and train?
No, not at all. And I trust players enough now to go away and over that Chrissy period, do the work to come back in January and good enough nick to launch.
It'll be intriguing to see if the AFLW starts in February as well. February, March start, June, July grand final. That would mean that the two competitions essentially line up, which will be less of a burden for the clubs.
That's exactly, I think, where it should go.
And I think, to your players' point of view, players look at the NBA, they look at the All-Star game, and I think they're more inclined than they were 20, 30 years ago to be part of that me type All-Star game, which is the State of Origin.
And for the women to have an international match against the Irish would be absolutely fantastic.
That would be unreal. And that's what they're talking about at the moment. Ned Guy and Josh Marnie have been over in Ireland talking about an international rules game. Where it is and which form it takes is still to be determined, but it's going ahead. Like, there's a lot of goodwill around this.
Yeah. All right. So it's lots to talk about. And as I said, don't lose your mind out there, ladies and gentlemen. If you don't like it, have a think about it. But we're coming up with answers to problems. You can't have the NFL playing on the same 2 days as 2 finals matches and maybe even risk losing a final at the MCG. No. Do this, everything works.
And if you don't like it, complaints at Channel 9 to Eddie McGuire.
Don't worry, I'll answer all of them too. I've got another bloke, an AI guy who can do it for me these days.
So those complaints.
Hey, speaking of exclusives, congratulations to you. Sorry to you, Hurdy. Horror day at Bomberland again today. You broke the story of 2 players who've just had really bad injuries.
Yeah, carnage at Essendon, Eddie. Apologies, Hurdy. This is something that Essendon fans won't want to see. Firstly, Tom Edwards has ruptured his ACL. He debuted against Adelaide. He kicked 3 goals in that game. He's only played 2 AFL matches. Indeed, he was only signed about 6 weeks ago in the SSP period. He'll miss 12 months. Yeah, so we're yet to determine how good a player he's going to be, but as a person on a human front, that's not what you want to see. And then shortly after, we revealed this afternoon that Jai Caldwell has torn his hamstring, so he'll miss gather round as well. Such an important player for Essendon, and not a good day, especially given, Eddie, it's bye round. This is when you expect the players to just go through the motions, not so much at Tullamarine.
Which underlines my point exactly, and that is with all the doctors, with all the medical, with all the fitness staff, with all the coaches, with all the goodwill in the world, injuries happen in football, even in bye round when you're running around on your own. Yeah. That's what happens. So I'm not that fussed about a State of Origin pre-season. Mid-season, no good. Pre-season, I like it a lot.
And Essendon are wrapping their arms around Tom Edwards.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, when you bring a guy over, you change his career, you've got to look after him now. They can't just keep him for 1 year, they've got to keep him for another couple of years.
And I'm sure they will.
We will take a break. When we come back, that man over there, Rory Sloane, has got some very strong thoughts on Oscar Allen meeting with the Hawthorn Football Club, the newly appointed captain of the West Coast Eagles. That and what happened at the Tribunal tonight. That's next. Welcome back to Footy Classified, and the exclusives are just starting. Tom, let's go to you first of all. Tell us about the Tribunal tonight, because we just mentioned that Jeff Brown's moving into the football department, and these are some of the angst where rules are made on the run, or at least intimated in a memo, and then somebody gets 3 weeks, and then it's not this and it's not that. When in fact, if you just go back to the original rule and say, don't push in the back. Go on.
So Ryan Mansell, this 3-game ban has been upheld. The AFL argued that Mansell wasn't contesting the ball. They said Mansell chose to push O'Connell when he didn't have to. They said the force of the push was, this is a quote, unreasonable, and that Mansell could and should have seen Lynch and Caminiti coming the other way. Now, the opposite argument from Richmond was that Mansell was trying to gain separation. Mansell's actions were reasonable, and Mansell didn't see Tom Lynch or Anthony Caminiti coming towards him. That's where it's at tonight. It was a marathon hearing. In the end, he'll miss the next 3 weeks.
He's very stiff, but as soon as that as soon as the memo came out after the Jimby incident, he was always going to get 3 weeks. I mean,
but this is what is driving me mad, though. Zorko did it in the last couple of minutes of his game, pushed the player straight in the pack. It wasn't even a free kick.
But it's results driven. I mean, if the guy gets knocked out, I mean, Lynch only just got him in the head
let's go back to Gerard Healy, and I used to say this on Fox Footy every week. In the back, pay the free kick.
I couldn't agree with you more, but as soon as that memo comes out, you know what's going to happen. I mean, they're not going to change their mind. It's always going to be 3 weeks.
And it's just the bit that frustrates me the most as a player is the unrealistic expectations that are placed on him. At the moment, Ryan's trying to deal with getting separation.
Which you're taught to do.
Player. Yes,
you're taught to do by your coaches.
Especially as a forward when you've got someone hanging off you.
And he's only just pushed him in. He's only just pushed him in the back too. It's almost on the side. He's very, very stiff.
It was very much on the side. Now, watch this though. I don't know if they argued this, but the St Kilda player there, he accelerates. He got pushed, right? And then he went with his courage.
They didn't argue that specifically.
But he actually missed the pack. He was to the side of the pack. Just Lynch stuck his long arms out and got him.
Yeah, choosing to go.
It's the result of what happened rather than the actual
I know.
I'm not sure about that, to be honest, because why not? In this instance, there's a difference between that incident and all the others that we've given examples for. So the Jinby and Lawler incident in the pre-season.
There wasn't a rule in the pre-season.
No, but Jinby's eyes were on the ball and he pushed Lawler into the contest. Yeah. In this incident, according to the AFL, Ryan Mansell didn't have his eyes on the ball. He simply just pushed his opponent into the
Every instance is slightly different.
Yes.
But in the whole totality of what's happened, he's pushed him into a contest.
That's true.
And he's got concussed, and that's the reason he's got 3 weeks.
There's 4 subsets to a rush behind rule these days.
Yes, I'm aware, yeah.
Can you explain them all?
No,
don't
start it. That's what actually happens. They do the wrong thing.
Down here somewhere.
But my point on this is, if you just had in the back, he would know if I push this bloke in the back, I'm going to give a free kick up 30 metres from goal.
But
they're going to stop doing it that way. Pay in the back.
His right hand is actually in his chest.
Yes. Yeah. So this is what we're talking about, though. The framework is so rigid; it's either 3 or none.
Yeah,
that's where Laura Kane is going to make her money, coming up with another column that allows for these accidental incidents that are borderline careless being a lesser punishment. That's going to be the key for the AFL, because that can't be 3 weeks.
No.
And look, he missed the pack. And Lynch stuck his arm out. I mean, you're a bit unlucky.
Yeah, I'm actually with you, Hurdy. I'm playing devil's advocate.
No, I think it's wrong that he got 3 weeks.
Don't bother challenging
the memo said.
Let's move on. Oscar Allen. This is a story. This is a new age footy story. Maybe us old dinosaurs here. It's
pretty obvious.
He actually played a little bit for the jumper. All right, tell us about this one.
So Sam Mitchell coached Hawthorn on Saturday night in in Launceston. He then flew to Melbourne on Sunday. Later on Sunday, he flew to Perth with his wife, and on Monday he met with Oscar Allen for
what was he doing in
coffee.
Perth?
Well, he's meeting with Oscar Allen. He was there for no more than a day.
I think it was the vineyards. He was there to see the...
He likes...
So he was also there for other things, but ostensibly he was there...
He flew for a day to Perth?
Ostensibly he was there to meet Oscar Allen and sell the dream of Hawthorn.
OK.
Now, West Coast and Don Pike today said this was a non-issue. This is the West Coast CEO and SENWA.
It's obviously news to us that may have occurred, but I think we're working in the world now that's changed from times gone past, where I don't think it's unusual for clubs to meet with players, and if that is the case, well, clearly we'll keep talking with Oscar about his position at the club, and we'd love to obviously keep him here, and we're working towards that with him and his management.
So, Ed, if Nathan Buckley, when you were president of Collingwood, was talking to Essendon, as Kevin Sheedy was talking to Nathan Buckley, who was captain, and you were president of Essendon, what would you be in your response?
Look, it's a really hard one, because we all know, I mean, you know, Channel 7 have spoken to me over the years, and, you know, I came here from Channel 10, and these things happen, OK? But I really feel hard about this. I said this last week. If Oscar Allen's not fair dinkum, don't be the captain. You know, that's OK.
But would you say what Don Pike had said?
No, I wouldn't say that.
I guarantee there's no way, as Collingwood president, you would have said that.
Look, I think at this stage as well, the West Coast have got to stand for something. And if they're going to have... If Hawthorn are going to fly in, laugh at them, have breakfast with their captain, tickle him up, take his mind off the job after he didn't get a kick on the weekend, and they are absolutely looking like a club that stands for nothing at the moment, and somebody's got to do something. Now, and that can sometimes be the president.
But I want to know what you would have said.
I would have said, mate, you're not captain anymore.
Right.
It'd be awkward for Oscar inside the 4 walls right now. He would have to get up in front of that group and
but he should resign. He should hand in his commission, or sign a new contract and get it done.
Yeah, well, it is disrespectful, and I think that's because he's captain of the footy club.
Yeah, but he's the captain. That's the thing. If it was Billy the Goose down there, you don't care.
So captaincy changes everything.
Absolutely, but he's entitled to explore his options. I still think he gets that option, but it needs to be later in the year, and he's got to be discreet about it.
But do you think he's changed his mind in the last 3 weeks? When they offered him the captaincy, if he thought, I might not be here, you go, maybe not.
So you're saying it's the optics rather than the fact he actually did catch up with Mitchell? Do it privately is what you're saying?
Absolutely.
Well,
would you have done it as captain?
Well, in 2018, no, definitely not as captain. I would have waited later in the year. And like 2018, I was a leader, a pivotal leader in our footy club, and I spoke to St Kilda, but we did it through a burner account later in the season on Instagram.
A burner account on Instagram. Breaking Bad over there.
Yeah, I followed a burner account on Instagram, and they did a full prezzo of this is what you expect from St Kilda. And that's how discreet I was, but that was way later in the season.
What do you mean, like a burner account, like you're just talking to them on your phone?
Like Instagram, I followed an account and then they presented through.
So no one could trace it.
No one could trace it. Only I could.
But I'm not going to be hypocritical about this.
No,
I had more players come to my house for dinner. You know,
of course. You tried to get Nick Rewald, didn't you?
It's not on you.
There's plenty. Nick Rewald, Jonathan Brown, Goddard.
But it's not on you. It's on.
Yeah.
I believe if you take the captaincy, you have a responsibility to lead your club and lead it without any distraction. I understand you want to look after the money, look after your family, but don't take the captaincy.
No, that's right. But they're getting to the point how this leaked. Is this Hawthorn's doing? Like, is this something that will help Hawthorn for this year?
Of course it will.
So Oscar Allen has a deal on the table from West Coast, which is far less than what the Brisbane Lions and Hawthorn are willing to offer. Initially, it was 3 years. I now believe it's up to 4 years. Is that enough for Oscar Allen to feel wanted at the Eagles? He's a free agent who should be at the top of his game. Surely the Eagles should be offering a longer term
Why can't
deal.
the Eagles offer him as much? I mean, it's not as though their salary cap's
That's exactly my point. Yeah. So how's he feeling about how the West Coast are...
how to get out.
Yeah.
That's the story. I mean, he can meet with them, but don't get out. Do you think it's a bit cheeky of Sam Mitchell going to Perth I mean, I went over to meet Mick Malthouse in Perth.
Sam Mitchell's done nothing wrong here.
No, he's done everything right, but I'm just saying he's still a bit cheeky. I went over at least under the guys that done the Footy Show, and Sam Newman turned up with the street talk crew. It's been
happening for years, and you can't blame Sam Mitchell for trying to make his footy club better.
I don't mind
but
Sam
I would
Mitchell.
be, if I was West Coast Eagles, I'd be putting a flag in the ground saying, if you want to go, but you're not the captain, and don't touch our players. We're building a football club.
Yeah, or sign and stay, and you're the captain, and we need to do something. They as a club, they have to re-establish themselves. They were one of the great clubs, and at the moment they're the worst club.
Yeah.
Okay, so they need to get themselves going again.
Yeah, you're right. A captain's job is to inspire and bring others along with him, and simultaneously he's working against that, catching up with.
It's not compulsory to be the captain, but if you are the captain, you have to be the captain.
Quick question,
and what it shows,
Tommy. How would we go if Oscar Allen came out and goes, I'll relinquish captaincy? And yes, I am going at the end of the year, but I'm going to play my heart out for West Coast.
You just cop that.
Well, I would have no issue with that, but I think the industry would.
Yeah, well, industry's got to get over it, okay? Every time we come up with something tonight, you tell me the industry. But it evolves anyway, it changes.
Yeah. It just goes to show to me that Sam Mitchell is ahead of the pack in almost every way, and the second is a long way away.
Last one on Oscar Allen. If he does leave, he's going to Brisbane or Hawthorn. So Collingwood and Melbourne have been interested. Melbourne very interested. But
Collingwood interested, aren't they?
They've been interested.
He should go, I reckon.
No, not as interested. He's going to a team at the very top of the premiership window if he does go, and the Lions and the Hawks are up to it in their eyeballs.
I hope Oscar gets a kick in the next couple of weeks. I'm a big rap for him. I love him as a player, but he's got to lead. Show what he's about for the West Coast.
It's been a difficult day for him, I reckon, as well. He made the mistake, but
it's going to be interesting. What happens if he gets the Bronx cheers from his own team?
Well, he's going to. I mean, he's going to from some of the supporters. Supporters wouldn't be. Some of the supporters are not going to be happy at all.
He's just put undue pressure on himself, so he's just got to perform. That's all he's got to do this weekend. He's in control of it.
Hey, next week we're in the Barossa Valley,
Fantastic.
gang. We are going over for gather round, and what about this? We're going to do an absolute spectacular. Next Tuesday, Rory Sloane and Belinda Sloane, very much on the show.
Yeah, just improve the looks of our show, Ed.
Very much, and the IQ too, by a fair way. James Hird, Nathan Brown. You're coming over, Tommy, aren't you?
I'm available for selection if you want me. I'll just be in the crowd.
You're there, Isaac Rankin. Now you're going to be working. We gave away a fantastic Mitsubishi last year. That was one of the great moments in my television career, watching that young bloke Liam winning that. It was fantastic. He's only just old enough now to drive it, believe it or not. We've got another one up for grabs. The Mitsubishi Triton GSR four-wheel drive auto, valued at over $70,000. Of course, Mitsubishi made in South Australia. The beautiful orange colour, the Yamabuki electric roll-top accessory pack. Unbelievable, thanks to our great friends at Mitsubishi Motors, headquartered in Adelaide, South Australia. It's going to be a ripper, so we'll see you next week. Special time of, I think it's about 7:30. And we're actually going to do it at Magic Hour over the Golden Hour in the Vines.
It's quite romantic, actually.
Oh, it's going to be wonderful.
It's going to be beautiful up there. Perfect night this time of year.
Sensational. Take a break. Come back with more right after this, including Hurdy's deep dive into Collingwood and Carlton.
We are ready to go. Huge crowd at the MCG. Carlton, Collingwood. It doesn't get any better. Over the top. Carno open goal. Final minute. 5-point game. Comes to Silvani. Misses. 5 seconds to get it on the boot. Walsh has got it. Swinging around. Gee, the tackle was a little high. Collingwood win by 4. The kick down the back. Now Elliott can face the goal. He can give it to Gideon and go for the run. He kicks the goal. Collingwood are in front. Collingwood are in front. Can you believe it? Collingwood win. Carlton are out of the finals. Players nervous. Ball ping-ponging. Nick Dacos, right foot snap. He's kicked the goal. Dacos has kicked the goal. Siren sounds. Pies have won. Fans go absolutely bananas. Pitting it out of the ruck. Quick kick to 50. McGuire with the game on his boot. And the Pies prevail for Pendles.
Yes, the AFL, no teams have played each other more often than Collingwood and Carlton, with only 4 wins separating the Pies in front by 4 over the last couple of years. Well, it's going to be an absolute beauty. Time now to dissect it, to analyse this game, and it's time for Coach's Corner.
25 minutes to make a name for yourself like you never made before.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. Well, last week we had Luke Beveridge come in and explain how the Western Bulldogs are going to beat Carlton. This week, Rory Sloane and I put our heads together and we're going to analyse how Carlton can beat Collingwood. Ed, any tips before we dive into it?
Yeah, I think that's the end of this segment. What do you mean?
Rory, for me, it's a lot about the long down the line and slowing Collingwood up. Carlton have to slow Collingwood up and try and get the ball down the line, the same way that GWS did against Collingwood in round 0 and brought Sammy Taylor into the game.
Yeah, and it was the midfield pressure from up the field that got Sammy Taylor into this game. The pressure on creates these jack balls and the high kicks from Collingwood, and if Carlton want to do this, their mids and forwards are going to have to do the exact same thing.
Last time Carlton played Collingwood, Jacob Wiedering took 5 intercept marks. Carlton were able to slow Collingwood down to a certain extent and bring Wiedering into the game. These intercept marks really challenge Collingwood, and when Wiedering gets the ball, if he's able to transfer the ball across the ground and bring it into the centre of the ground to open up some better looks for Carlton and get their midfielders and forwards to lower their eyes and hit some targets and really challenge Darcy Moore and Howe and make them defend rather than put those high balls in.
Well, he's pivotal in setting Carlton up for a win. But who goes to him? You're going to send Dan McStadium as a coach and really get his influence?
I think he's got to send Dan McStadium. But the other part of the game is in the midfield, the contest. We see that Patrick Cripps and TDK are the best 2 players for Carlton. And if Carlton are going to win, they've got to be better than Collingwood on the inside.
Yeah, and this has been part of Carlton's game. It's actually been rock solid at the moment. They're 3rd at the moment for clearances, but it's their leg drive I want to see. It's their scores from clearances I want to see more of. I want to see them get more from these sort of stoppages. Run and carry out, get a deeper entry in, because Curnow wants it out in front, not on his head. And
if you can get the ball to Walsh, you can get to Sard, you can get to Chera, you'll see the ball, some lower kicks into the forwards and actually take Curnow, take some marks, rather than, as you said, Moore and Howe just coming across the top and intercepting.
Yeah, and what about Collingwood's mid? So who goes to Nick? Does anyone go to him, or do they just go head for head?
I think you've got to put a tag in a Nick. I mean, you've got to put Hewitt to Nick Dacos. Really, the Gerrards Giants again with Toby Bedford showed Nick Dacos is the best player in the competition for my mind and very hard to stop. He's always going to get possessions, but what you need to stop is possession change. He's 1, 2, 3s, 100-metre plays. The pressure that Bedford put and the GWS players put on Nick Dacos meant that by the end of the game he was cramping and not as effective as he normally is.
It wasn't just Nick, but they shut down all of Collingwood's mids. And then Collingwood's sense of their depth's been extraordinary. I think Steele's still playing great footy. Pendles is still in great nick. Their depth is amazing. So Carlton are going to have to do a good job on their mids to be able to get
to summarise, elite pressure, get the ball down the line, bring Wiedering into the game, make sure we win in the inside and take care of Nick Dacos. For your mind, who's going to win the game?
I don't know, but I'm looking forward to watching. This game's almost as big as a showdown, right, Ed? Big as a showdown? Bigger? What?
Who's going to win the game?
He's so angry, doesn't he?
He does. He doesn't like... Don't tease him about Collingwood.
Pies will win, and they're going to take great satisfaction in maybe destroying Carlton's set.
I'm going the Blues by 5 points, Ed.
Hey, can I ask you about Harry McGuire? I saw him yesterday at the breakfast for Peter McCallum. He played on the weekend. I think he plays.
Yeah, no, he's going well, Harry McGuire. Everyone's positive about his development and the last week or so, but it's still unclear whether he's going to actually play tomorrow night. Michael Voss is speaking tomorrow morning. I'd imagine it'll become more clear then. Hey, Eddie, my mail is that for the first time since you stopped being president at Collingwood, you've been invited back to the president function. Is that correct?
I've been invited in the past, but I haven't gone. I wanted to put some...
But are you going this time?
I am. I'm going as a guest of the club on Thursday night, so looking forward to that. To Barry Karp, the president, and Jeff Brown will be there as well. The
bit of a homecoming?
I don't want it to be like that. I just want to go and enjoy it and keep my childlike love of the Pies going. It's going to be a great game. I won't sleep tonight.
He did request a guard of honour on the way in.
Of course he did. Yeah. With a banner and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, just, I like low-key things, OK?
It's been 4 years, has it? 4 years since you've been back.
Well, I had a couple of years with COVID as well, so... Yeah. Believe it or not, I don't think I've been to the President's Lunch for about 5 years.
Well, we'll enjoy it, and hopefully the Pies can get the win for you.
That's the way that I'll enjoy it, I can tell you. There's no other enjoyment other than beating Carlton in that situation. What we all will be doing tomorrow on Thursday night is wearing a black armband because a great player of the Collingwood Football Club, one of our great stories, and the Richmond Football Club, Andrew Cracker, passed away on Monday. Gardening at his mum's place in Perth, had a heart attack, and at 42 years of age, his life was cut far too short. Speaking to the family today, Jimmy and his mum and his sister and, of course, Barb, his wife, and the kids, everyone is completely devastated. That was when he got out of jail and he won the Sandover medal and he won the premiership in the Sandford for Swan Districts. Came to Collingwood, mark of the year, kicked 3 goals before half-time to keep the Pies right in, the chance of going back-to-back. He was just fantastic. A complex man and a man who lived the life, no doubt about it. Valet, Andy Cracker.